So we're going to be watching the whole game from Zywoo's POV. It's Dust 2, something something of a comfort map for me. So I feel as though I've got a pretty good understanding already of how to approach the map. And I wanted to talk a bit beforehand about what you want to look at when you're watching a pro demo. So there are a couple of reasons you can watch a VOD, and that isn't your own, right? And so that can be anything from understanding the map on sort of a macro level, where you're mostly going to want to watch the game from a rotational perspective. How do teams play around map control? How do they respond to losing map control? That sort of thing. And then there's sort of a micro level, which is either individual or on zooming in on a very specific site. This time around, we're going to look at individually Zywoo. He had an amazing map. It does go to OT, I think. I think just one. Well, I know it goes to OT, but I think just one. And specifically, what I think it's really important to do when you're looking at demos, when you're doing VOD review on an individual micro level, is to pick one or two things before you go into it and try to focus on those. And I haven't seen this before. I didn't even watch the match, so I have no idea what happens in this game, other than it ends with Astralis winning in some form of OT. And I think it's really important and helpful to focus on like one or two things and try to keep that in mind. So what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at Zywoo's crosshair placement, because that's just individually something I've been focusing on a lot lately. So I'm going to look at his crosshair placement one, and then I'm going to look at his decision making in tight spaces. So I don't mean like big rotational decision making. I don't mean, pointing up to, the mini map, right? I don't mean, oh, how's he rotating from point A to point B? I'm talking about when he's in a certain area, how is he making decisions on what to do? So I'm going to hopefully point some of that out for you guys as well. Yeah, let's get to it. I like that nuclear garden skin. This is the type of demo review. One last thing, when you're watching an individual POV, I typically think that FPL type pug streams are going to be better because you get the communication. So like, Simple has hundreds of full gameplay recordings from his stream on YouTube. Not necessarily uploaded by him, but still they're available. Unfortunately, Zywoo does not, and I really wanted to look at his POV. So while we don't get the communication, it's still important to not leave the X-ray on, to not worry about the buys, just kind of really approach this and think of this from his perspective when you're going into this, right? All right. Okay, so just looking at the team, how they're kind of moving. 3 long, Zywoo just chilling with the Glock. Interesting that he's willing to just jump out wide first. I mean, it makes sense in some levels because he is jumping, so it's unlikely he's going to be the one getting the first shot. It's more likely the second guy gets instantly headshot, but kind of interesting that they don't have the third guy there just jump wide. So just holding the flank, you see his teammates grouping up over there at B. Oh, later. So Zywoo lurking and his team just sprint in on contact. Astralis mop him up. Yeah. Right. One dig, he doesn't overbuy. Oh, never mind. He full commits. His crosshair is so tight on the angle, kind of weird. Yeah. So right now, nothing really spectacular. This is all pretty standard. He played the lurk roll round one. Just working up taking mid. One thing I'm gonna pause this briefly just because this is something I feel like a lot of low level players and teams don't do well on Dust 2. Notice how easily they just took mid control. Like they don't even they haven't smoked Xbox. They're not pressed at all. They're just chilling. They're happy for CT players to peek into them. I feel like that's something that at lower levels people don't do enough. They give way too much respect to the CT side. Zywoo flanking on his teammate. Interesting there that he looks at the lower door instead of back left CT. So much more concerned about the device 3K. Much more concerned about the sort of the fast flank, like the guy pushing mid and going for the quick flank cat, than he was someone peeking from the B side. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's like an Astralis specific tell where he's looking there, or if that's something more generally. I'll try to pay attention to that in the future because if at higher levels the so if at higher levels the door is more often pushed than the swing from the left, that it's actually a little bit different from mid to high level play. Like high level in air quotes. I'm talking like main to advanced, right? My level of play for now. Right? Let's see. Let's be clear. We're talking, a tier down. Definitely the B swing is more common there. So that's interesting. Or maybe it's just like a risk reward thing. It makes more sense for him to look at the doorway. So we're on a save. He just picks up a P250. Oh, Glaive doesn't buy head armor. Gets punished for it. Unlucky. Yeah, I've noticed Zywoo loves that P250. Alright, so he ops up. Just scopes the lower peak. Honestly, I'd be a little worried holding this because I know, like, Device that he sometimes boosts behind the doorway. And there you go. You see, they just sprint up middle. Device gets a kill because of it, but yeah, still scoping the door push. Really not too worried about entering out on the right side or the left side. Fornavera just dies pushing up mid. Sacrifice. Very aware of these door flanks. Now he's worried about the B side because he hasn't seen anyone rotate over, right? So he's like, okay, what's going on? I don't. Someone should be here. You should check their spawn. I think right after this, he's gonna like. I wouldn't be surprised if he looks back toward their spawn. No? Okay. Maybe all three are spotted. Okay, so this is interesting, right? So he sees his teammate over there. My thought process here would be to go back toward Cat, right? And basically shut down Cat. Instead, Zywoo, he sticks around on site for a little bit. Basically, not quite gambling, but saying, hey, you're coming toward me. So maybe all three were called then. Oh, that's unfortunate. Easy 1v3 though. Damn. So yeah, honestly, that was pretty standard. I don't know why Magisk is diffusing there if he's low HP, unless the other guy's also low HP. But good clutch by Zywoo. The big thing there for me was like my gut reaction would have been to go fast Cat, right? Like I would have just abandoned my guy on site and gone back to Cat right now. And I thought he played that very calmly. Like he didn't he ended up going back toward Cat, so like you could say like, well, Zotek, you should have done that right away anyway. But by playing it a little more calmly, if Astralis kind of got greedy and applied like uh, early pressure, like trying to catch the guy on a timing as he's planting the bomb, then potentially Zywoo's right there to help, and they're not just stuck in Cat where he can't really easily peek without just getting closed off. So kind of interesting to think about. And then crosshair placement really just tight on the edges so far. Looking for the one way again. There's that little pixel over the door. I've seen device boost there before. Zywoo clearly doesn't care. Saying, prove it to me. Show me you'll do it. Alright, so this is interesting. Scope's in back here so we can walk up. I find it really interesting. He doesn't have like the same precision of Nico pushing in there with this crosshair. Just spots the leg, takes a shot. Pretty standard stuff. What I mean by that is that when he peeked the back plat, if you noticed, his crosshair wasn't directly on the angle. He kind of peeked out aiming in the middle of the box. And like that's a small thing, but it goes to show when you compare him to like a Nico or I mean, Nico's the best comparison I can think of, but Manisi is another one, the FPL player, where their crosshair placement is so precise, and yet Zywoo outperforms them pretty drastically. So I think that's interesting to note that that sort of pre-aiming might not be as important as it may seem. And then yeah, he just came in the back. I like that he let out in the long range angles and then he let his teammates clear the rest. Like that's very basic, but quite important, I think. All right, let's skip ahead through this timeout. Nobody cares about the Astralis timeouts. All right, so scoping. Happens to everybody, guys. Happens to everybody. Trust me, if Zywoo messes up his flashes, you're allowed to mess up your flashes too sometimes. I don't like this though. Like this is one thing. This is actually a big pet peeve of mine, where you leave the bomb and you have 3 people go one spot. All right, there's Glaive randomly pushing mid. Astralis are definitely ecoing here. They could be pushed up cat here, so you see that's where RPK yellow on the map. RPK zoned in on that, watching for the deep cat push. So I will be ready for it, yeah. Oh, did Astralis force? Maybe they did. Wow. Or maybe they saved and oh yeah, they saved one. I just wasn't paying attention. I'm dumb. Yeah, that's the flash. I've seen Simple throw that 100 times. Alright, so here we go. I'll be really interested to see what he does. So Molly Cat, pretty standard. Just rushing the plant. They could be Gandalf. They're not. Where does he go? Does he go ramp or stay site? Kind of a mix. Ugh. It's interesting. Basically exposing himself to the max. Just trying to get that extra little bit out of it. It just outplays him. Yeah. So he's just expecting Magisk to full swing there. Honestly, what I'm seeing from Zywoo there is he's keeping his options open on site. That's twice now in these sort of post-plant situations where they're down numbers that he's worked to keep his options open and not committing into one spot. I feel like that... I'm not sure what I think of that, but I'm going to note that down sort of mentally and then give it some thought more in the future, right? Just the idea of being comfortable not making a decision right away. And it's not to say that you should be indecisive. It's more like a conscious and calm way to keep your options open. Just spamming the smoke, kind of waiting it out. I like that he mollied the back push just to prevent anyone from kind of holding the edge of the smoke there. It's not, it's not revolutionary. People do that at every level of play, but... And then the awareness here, like even though it's a 4v, like even though they have a player B tons, like one guy could have definitely pushed up cat. And could be, sitting palm tree watching for the A-long flank. It's unlikely, which is why, you don't see them too worried about it, but Nice little dry double swing. I like that. Device hopping the cross. Oh, RPK is gonna lurk some. Oh, Dupree. Huge kill. Alright, so this is the third round that they post plant. Down numbers. Oh, that's unfortunate. So he goes back, tries to pick up the op, and he worries about long. They could already be out. I might have cleared wider, to be honest. Yeah. So that's a hard position to be in, but I think that's just Zywoo getting a little, just kind of messing up a bit. The long play there is really transparent. Really transparent. He was probably, again, I haven't seen this, and I'm just watching it from his POV, but it's very likely that Dupree was already out to the blue bins at there. Uh, very, very likely. Where's the Kovacs video at? It's on the way. It's on the way, bro. Have fun, have fun. HF, 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 HF. I like that he doesn't bite on the first jump. Because when you jump like that, very often you are trying to bait out so your op can peek. So again, just really, really solid decision making from Zywoo. The last round, kind of mediocre to be honest. But they're just very consistent thought process. Scoping the door. Merry Christmas, Mr. Val. So 4v4, coming back to watch their spawn, I feel like that is a little ambitious. The reason I say that is that if they get mollied off here where Zywoo is, and then smoked off, 2 players are frozen out. It's the one reason I don't like him going back there. It's Astralis, so you know they're most likely saving in this scenario, but even still, that just goes to show Zywoo's breadth of knowledge and preparation in this that he puts into the games. Where he knows. Also, I just realized he didn't buy armor. That's kind of interesting. I just noticed he didn't buy armor. Surely he buys it this time. There we go. Let's go, Zywoo. Alright, so Astralis should be saving, maybe forcing. Oh, never mind. What am I saying? They saved 4 people. I gotta wake up. Just because it's 1 a.m. doesn't mean I can't stay focused. Zipex picks up one on Cat. So Zywoo backs up. That's interesting. So he clearly knows the exact space he can scope in so that they can't hear him from car. Let's see if he double scopes this better. No. So you see right there again, we see Zywoo kind of peeking the box. Not lazily, not badly, but just kind of not too worried about being ultra precise there. I feel like a lot of operators would get caught up worrying about, oh, is my crosshair perfectly on the spot? And it is better, strictly speaking, to have your crosshair perfectly on the angle when you peek it. But clearly, it's not the difference between you and Zywoo, right? Is his insane pixel perfect peeking. Oh, never mind. Shocks with the insane pixel perfect peak. Should I cast this? Is that what we do? Do we just go into the straight into the cast? 47 seconds left on the clock. Shocks. He'll be phasing through the smoke as it starts to fade, but Magisk peeks out, gets the kill. 6-3 the score now in favor of Astralis. I even had my caster voice on there. It's the big boy caster voice. Merry Christmas to everyone watching, by the way. I have my Christmas sweater on in celebration. Alright, so let's see. Ron and Nico. Zywoo with the Deeg. Just gonna jump straight suicide. Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting seeing his sort of peaks compared to again Nico's, right? Where Nico sort of the mechanical prodigy, Zywoo the overall performer. And I do think Zywoo is pretty clearly the overall best player um, in the world right now. I saw the little run boost through the wall Apex, jumping off of RPK's head. Yeah, this crosshair placement's interesting as well. Like very, very precise when he's not peeking, right? Like the peaks themselves, and I'm sure in some angles they're going to be quite accurate. But let's see how he handles this. So his teammates are taking A. It looks like they have A. Yeah, see, look at that. Not really pixel perfect on the angle, just kind of chilling. Just kind of chilling. Three, oh my god, 3-1 Deegs. Picks up the op as well. Oh, he knew he was elevator. Just crossing sight, and now he knows one's cat as well. He's just gonna aggro the cat guy. Oh nope. So brave. So such smooth aim. There, he hits three shots, doesn't really worry about it too much. His peeking isn't as crazy as I would expect, to be honest, from someone of his caliber. His peeking isn't nearly as precise as I would expect. But let's see what we can make happen here. Hopping back up again, really prioritizing this T side up. It is Dust 2, so that makes sense. He knows Device has been scoping this right side a couple of times. Device, honestly, so incredible at Dust 2. He's not as flashy as Simple, but the way he plays it and the way he sets up his teammates, there's no one else in the world who quite does it the same way. Like, Device plays the map how you should, but in such a way that it doesn't matter that he's playing standard. It just works. So Zywoo again, really convinced that this lurk's going to come through. We've seen this multiple times now. Looks like they're going back for a mid to B now. Just double pumping A. Zywoo with 2 flashes, guys. He can flash you out, yeah. He's flashing over a ramp. You saw one ramp, I think, right? Oh, the aim punch. Oh, Glaive, you're so good. What the heck? Yeah, I'd call a timeout too, bro. you just all 3 ran through a molly. You had 40 seconds left. Could have dropped CT. Could have done something. All right, so they're ecoing. Nice and slow. Last time Zywoo got a real nice Deagle 3K. See what he can make happen. Letting the Tech 9s and Mac 10 go first. I agree with that. Makes sense. The run boost. Oh. That always sucks when you're trying to bait your team. They run out first and you just get naded from behind. That never feels good. Zywoo flashing his teammates out. So this is one thing you see with top players a lot. With superstar players specifically. Oh, so he clears Goose. Are they just not playing A? Full retake, huh? You see them throwing the support util. So it's where I don't really get the idea of like support players as not being like these star fraggers. Because every superstar player plays the support role. That was really greedy by Zywoo. He didn't need to take that fight. And then he also like didn't hit the deagle shots, but that was really greedy. Both players whiffed, but When you're a Deagle whiffing and they're an M4 whiffing, they're probably still going to get the kill before you do. So yeah, what I saw there was a lot of non-commitment. So Zywoo isn't. So this is something that I compare it to the way I approach sort of post plants, which is if you're in a disadvantaged state, my mentality generally goes to one of two ends of the spectrum, which is do something fast and take advantage of timings. So essentially on Dust 2, for example, let's re-aggro cat, take it, and then 3v1 whoever's there, 3v2 whoever's there, turn around 3v2 long, right? Or just doing something really quick and sort of playing a rock paper scissors game. That's my go-to. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where it's like, hey, we're in such a disadvantaged state that fast is probably, or like it's the timing doesn't work out. Then we have to go the opposite end of the spectrum, which is let's turtle up on one side, force them to come into 1v1 fights, and then just win our 1v1 fights when they come into us, right? It's really interesting to see Zywoo maintaining his options. He's not committing. He's very much staying relaxed, staying back, and really just not full committing in these retake scenarios. All right. Still scoping mid. Didn't miss his flash that time. Send a couple warning shots off. Ready for the top mid push. Man, Vitality just getting wrecked on this T side. Oof. Dang, just a scout, huh? Back to B, yeah? Merry Christmas, Trunkian. So I find this interesting that Zywoo is still leading out the same. Okay, now this is much more like, because he has a scout, right? That was, so that's what's interesting, right? So there he took his time because he had to and he consciously thought about it. But it isn't a priority for him a lot of the time. So in that specific instance, he took his time. That was a smart play. He took his time there to line it up, but he doesn't feel the need to always do that. I feel like that's something that I could learn from as well. Zywoo, masterclass in clutching. How does he play this 1v1? So he plants for everything. Molly's cat. Oh. Clear CT. Yeah. So I'm going to think about that. He mollied cat to buy himself time to isolate CT. He was going to jump across long and thought better of it. He thought to himself, I don't want to get just wide swung CT as I'm crossing or something. I don't know what he thought, but he thought better of it halfway through. And then the rest of it was pretty clinical. He dropped down, saw nothing CT. He went goose, so he didn't expose himself to A long, because the only two places at that point Glave's coming from are long or cat. Peeked cat, Glaive was there, quick headshot. Not really flicky aim, very smooth. Almost device-esque in terms of how Zywoo's playing the Saf. The way he's aiming, I should say. Yeah, quick Xbox smoke. Astralis just bullying them at A long. This does not feel fun for Vitality at all. I find it really interesting he posted up on Goose so directly. Alright, so let's see what he does here. Very patient. Alright, so again, numbers disadvantage post plant. Alright, this is more what my speed, but even then, like, he's kind of, yeah, just staying in the middle, keeping his options open. He could win this pretty easily. Yeah. Goodbye. Yep. Yeah, so very fascinating to see Zywoo keeping his options open every post plant that they're down numbers, not getting pigeonholed into one spot. Very much. So the story of that half, Astralis obviously dominated, but the story of that half really comes down to Zywoo. So my takeaways from that half: Zywoo's peaking and crosshair placement isn't that precise usually. When he really wants it to be, it's pixel perfect, but he doesn't seem to worry about that. That's not his main priority when he's peaking. And then in a lot of micro decision making, he's not committing right away. He's playing back, playing relaxed, keeping his options open, and sort of relying on his aim and the other team to give him mistakes.